Hey guys, this is Chad Bushnell, and you're watching Concerts That Made Us.
Is everybody in? Is everybody in? The show is about to begin. Welcome to the podcast, Concerts That Made Us. Interviews and stories, tales from the bus. We love taking you back to when it all went down. The greatest live shows and the cheering crowd sound. It's concerts that made us. Concertsthatmadeus.com.
Chad, you're very welcome to Concerts That Made Us.
Hey, thank you for having me. Yeah.
It's great now. I'm looking forward to diving into your music over the next bit. You recently released the track Imperfect Prayer. Take us a bit deeper into it if you can.
Yeah, we've been writing a lot of Christian country stuff, and sometimes I'll present the idea. Sometimes, the songwriters I write with in Nashville represent idea, and I went in the writing room, and Corey mentioned the hook, Imperfect Prayer, and we just kind of went to work and wrote this song. And so I'm really excited. This is actually off the last batch of songs I recorded. This is my favorite song, so I'm really happy to put this one out.
Nice, nice. I like it. I like it. Were there any kind of memorable moments you can share with us during production and recording?
Man, well, I mean, anytime I get to write with Corey Lee Barker, Mark Radowski, and Mark Roma, I mean, those guys are pros. In Nashville, they write a lot of songs for movies, so that part was just great getting to write with them. And then, I got to record with Kimo Forrest, who plays lead guitar for Alabama, and he went in and did a lot of the guitar work and different things, and then I got to record the vocals in a different studio with the guy that recorded songs for Joe Nichols. So just the overall experience was just great for me on this song. I'm really happy with how it turned out.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like it. In the past, you've worked with the legendary singer-songwriter Dave Gibson. Can you tell us a bit more about what the dynamic was like between you two?
Yeah, I mean that's definitely one of my heroes. Dave Gibson is a songwriter, and I was performing at the Row in Nashville, and he hosted that night. I didn't know he was going to be there, and I said, "Oh wow!" And so after I sang, I went up to him, and I just a little bit bold. I said hi, handed him a CD, and shoot, it was another year after I actually got to work with him, and he produced me, and so it was just a great experience. I mean, he talk about someone that really makes you sing too. I mean, he when I went in there and sang, he kind of pulled me out, said, "No, no, we need you to like." It's just like being in the military of vocal production with him. So yeah.
Sounds like an interesting experience, all right. Now, for
Yeah.
any listeners that don't know, you come from four generations of cowboy singers. Can you tell us a bit about what it was like growing up in your family and how you moved towards singing yourself?
Man, a lot of my family members, they're all different musicians and singers. My great grandparents were professional opera singers, and then my dad and my aunt both sang, you know, all their life. And just it's really both sides of my family. I grew up playing church with my great grandma, and that was some of the best memories of my childhood, getting to play in church with her. And so, really, ever since I was 3 or 4, I've known music's what I wanted to do. I just, I was obsessed with it at a young age, and here I am, still doing it.
I like it. I like it. And Christian country, what drew you towards that as opposed to, more traditional country?
Man, well, I like I said, I grew up performing in church with my great grandma, and we grew up going to Cowboy church. My dad was we always played at the Cowboy church, so that was a big part of my upbringing. And of course, I've put out like more mainstream type of songs, but a lot of people every week ask me, "Hey, when's your next Christian country song coming out?" So I've made that a big part of my career because people request my Christian country music. So, you know,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. You're one of the country singers as well that, you're legitimate. You are a cowboy as well as being a singer. How do you balance the two?
Man, it's just a constant grind. I work as a farrier in between, and I shoe horses a few days a week, and then next day we're on the road doing music, and it's just kind of that's my lifestyle. And it's great. I get horses and then play music, so it's really it's a great lifestyle. So
Living the dream, huh?
yeah, exactly.
As well as singing, you were in the Western movie Righteous Blood. Have you any more plans in the future to be in any more movies?
And that's what I'm hoping. I'm hoping to get in some more westerns, maybe a Hallmark movie, and that's really my goal. I love to be a part of that. And usually they have me in there because of I'm probably better at riding horses and shooting and that kind of stuff than I am acting. But they so hopefully between you know being able to ride, shoot, and rope and stuff, they'll let me in some more movies. Hopefully.
Yeah, yeah. Bit of a random one. Out of all the Westerns, what's your favorite? What one would you like to have been in?
Man, John Wayne, the Cowboys is probably I mean, that's probably my all-time favorite, I would say.
Understandable, understandable. Now, the podcast is called Concerts That Made Us. So I need to ask you some concert related questions if you don't mind.
Of
First
course.
off, first off, as a concert goer, what concerts would you say have made you?
Man, probably my two favorites would be Dwight Yoakam and Vince Gill. Those are my two favorite country singers, and I got to see them both in concert multiple times. I did get to open for Dwight Yoakam in 2018. That was definitely a highlight. So, yeah,
Like it. As a concert goer, what makes a good show for you? What do you look for?
man, a lot of things. Just the overall entertainment. How much the artist is into the show. And there's even been some concerts. Somebody took me to a Dirk Bentley concert, and I mean, I got to say, I've always liked his music, but I'm more into the traditional stuff. But I went to Dirk Bentley earlier this summer. I thought he put on a great concert, along with Molly Tuttle. She was excellent. So you know,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Is there any shows you've attended that maybe fans of yours would be surprised you attended?
I went to Bruno Mars. That was a concert that I never thought I'd go to, and I've seen Bruno Mars twice. My wife is a huge Bruno Mars fan, so
Oh,
yeah.
cool, cool. I'd
Saw
say
him
he
once-
actually puts on a very good show.
yeah, well, we saw him once as Bruno Mars, and the other time as Silk Sonic. So
Oh, I like it.
yeah.
I like it. Now, for any listeners that haven't been lucky enough to catch one of your shows, what are they like? Give us the full experience if you can.
Man, I started out with trying to have a good band. I mean, I try to keep the best players, around Northern California as I can find. And that's a big part of it, having good players. So I want to make sure, everybody's top notch. And, we like to, I sing my original songs. I cover a lot of Garth Brooks. And then we do Bakersfield, because the Bakersfield sound's a big part of my career. Dwight Yoakam, Buck Owens. So I always like to bring that influence in there. And then, of course, a little bit of my Christian country. So it gives people kind of a variety.
Yeah, true, true. Besides, audience numbers, attendance numbers, what makes a good show for you when you're playing?
Um, just the energy, the band, all the dynamics of all the band getting together and jiving up there, and then the crowd, if the crowd's into it. We had a great show. Well, one of my favorite shows this summer was actually on Wednesday night. I opened for Red Farron at Goldfield Roseville, and that was just the absolute, like, probably the coolest show of the year. It was a sold out show. Red Farron's a pretty big name right now, and I got to perform in full of a packed house inside a great venue, and people sang, were singing with me to some of my songs, which was like wow. And so that was probably the best experience this summer and what makes a great concert for me.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. In the past, you've opened for a long, long list of, country stars. One in particular I'd love to know about is Chris Christopherson, who sadly passed away early this week. What was it like opening for him?
Man, I put a post about that last night, and that's definitely my favorite opening act experience. And right after the car fires happened, it burned a lot of infrastructures. Chris came and did a huge concert at the Cascade Theater in Redding, California. And I was fortunate enough to get to open for Chris and Ben Haggard, and Ben Haggard's Merle Haggard's son. And so I got to talk to Chris backstage for a little bit, visit with him, get a picture, and it was just a great experience. I mean, he was such a nice guy, and talk about one of the best songwriters probably ever. So
Yeah, yeah,
that was very, I thought, to come and do a concert and help raise money for those people. So
yeah, definitely, definitely. On a personal level, was he as we would expect, was he the same Chris behind the scenes?
I thought he was. I mean, he was older, and I don't even think he realized where he was. I know So I mean, I thought he was very nice. He talked to me and shook my hand and had a good conversation. And because there have been a few that didn't do that, but being
Mhm.
honestly of Chris's, how famous he is, he's probably the most famous person I've opened for. I would have expected him to be not as, you know, talkative and friendly. He was more normal than some of the other ones I've opened for. So
Mm. I've heard that in the past, actually, that it's like these super famous, legendary people that are the nicest, and it's the smaller guys that kind of have a bit of an ego.
yeah, exactly. That's very true.
Yeah. Now, if you think of all the shows you've played, besides the Chris Christopherson one, over your career, is the one that sits above the rest? It just couldn't have got any better.
Man, I've been asked this before, and it's always Lee Bryce has been probably the best. Lee Bryce is the coolest dude. And going into it, for some reason I didn't expect him to be overly friendly. I don't know why, but man, he walked up to us right after we opened and he said, "Hey, you guys drink beer?" And we're like, "Yeah." And to my band and I, so hey, after I do my show, let's all you guys come on my tour bus and we'll have some beers. And sure enough, he invited us all on. We had beers and gave me his contact. And then afterwards, we went and signed autographs for about 45 minutes. And he was just the coolest guy. That was my best experience. So.
Oh man, oh man. Now, if we switch that around, a show that maybe things started to fall apart, and how did you overcome it?
Man, yeah, I've had some of those too. I just smile and act like everything's good in front of the crowd. And then afterwards, do what you got to do. Probably my worst one, and one of my favorite artists too is Mark Chestnut. We opened for Mark Chestnut at a show out in the kind of in a small town called Weaverville, and the opening slot went great. And afterwards, there was some miscommunication. As soon as he was done, they wanted us on stage. Well, his crew wouldn't let us on stage until it had everything off, and the promoter was losing the crowd. So I kind of got yelled at by the promoter, and then I got yelled at by the stage manager because he wouldn't let us on stage. So it's kind of it was a rough night, and nothing to do with Mark, but it was more the promoters and the crew, I would say. And so I basically just kind of had to take it for a little bit, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, I get
It
you.
was,
I get you.
yeah,
Luckily, they don't happen every day.
no, and I just had to keep my mind. So I'm opening for Mark Chester tonight, so I got to, to kind of suck
Well,
it up a little bit.
yeah, true, true. Now, when it comes to show time, your pre-show and post-show, how do you psych yourself up? And then afterwards, how do you like to wind down?
Man, so usually especially if I'm opening for someone, that's always an honor, if it's a national act. So usually in the morning or, around lunchtime, I'll sing 3 or 4 songs acoustic, even just whatever songs, some of my favorites. And then I won't sing again till sound check, and that's kind of what I always do. I try to keep warmed up just a little bit throughout the day. And then, depending on how stressed out I am, sometimes I'll have one beer just to kind of take the edge off.
Mm,
Sometimes I can get a little bit, you know, worked up. So maybe I'll have one beer like an hour before the show, kind of calm down and just get up there and go for it. And then afterwards, I like to sit and hang out with my band or just, watch TV or whatever. And a lot of times we have to drive after the show. So I'll listen to the radio and wind down and then go to bed.
I see. I see. When you wake up after a massive gig, after, a brilliant gig, you wake up the next morning, how do you kind of get back to normal? How do you get up and, go be a farrier?
Man, I try to, and I'm not always the best about it, but I try to work out a little bit, just general, like 25-minute, just basic stuff, some sit ups, some crunches. And I try to keep my core strong, but that usually gets the blood pumping because there's some mornings where it's just hard. Like, man, played all these shows, I'm tired, but usually doing a quick workout, eating a good breakfast, staying hydrated, and, that usually helps for me. Yeah.
True. When you think of your career, what drives you?
Man, it's just, I've just really known ever since I was little that this is what I want to do. And I've set the bar pretty high, hopefully performing on the Grand Ole Opry someday, maybe having some cuts by major artists there, so I just don't stop until I maybe get there, basically is what keeps me going. And it's just what I like to do too. I'm blessed enough that I get to just what I love to do every morning. I wake up and I want to do music. So
I like it. I like it. Now, before we dive into the last couple of questions, future plans set in stone. I know you've some gigs coming up, and is there anything new music you can share with us?
Yeah, last summer I had the pleasure of writing with Brian White, who's written a bunch of hit songs. And this song's, because it's always cool when you get in there with the hit songwriter and they just you basically ask you, oh, what have you been up to? What's been going on in your life? And at that time I was going through, some personal issues. And so we wrote a song called We Ain't Done, which is about relationships. We're different in a lot of ways, but we ain't done. We're still, and I am married. And so, sometimes anybody that's married knows that there's ups and downs. I'll just say that.
Mm.
And so we wrote a song about that, and I'm excited to instead of a Christmas song, I'm putting that out this year. So
Ah, I
I'm
feel like
gonna.
that's a bit of a risky decision. Most singers get the country song ready. What kind of made you decide to put that one out?
Well, my fault. I kind of procrastinated. I didn't get a Christmas song done this year, and so I said, well, we recorded this one, and it's I think during that time too, especially Thanksgiving, Christmas, a lot of couples do struggle. So I think it's going to be a good time to put that out and be like, hey, couples can think we're struggling, we're different in a lot of ways, but we ain't done. We're going to keep trying. And so that was my reason for that. Yeah.
I like it. I like it. When can we expect maybe another album or an EP?
Hopefully next spring. I've already been writing songs for it. I have some writing sessions set up, and yeah, I'm hoping the next touring season, well, I got a lot of shows for the rest of this year, but March, April, I'd like to have something new out by then. So, yeah.
Something to look forward to. So we'll dive into the last couple. There are a couple of random fun ones.
Yeah,
Besides music and being a cowboy, what are you currently obsessed with?
man. I love to hunt and fish. I do both that. I'm actually get to go deer hunting next week, and then I've got to fish a couple times this year. That just trout fishing, whatever kind of fishing I can do, and I love to do stuff with my family and go on trips if we have time. And my wife and I are going to go to Disneyland in January, and my sister actually got to brag on her a little bit. She's a professional roper and
Ah,
works in the rodeo industry. So anytime I have a weekend or some time off, I like to go watch her compete, and so I do like to do that too.
man, a lot of fun, a lot of fun. The next one, it's a bit strange. If you had to be locked in a room with any musician from history for 24 hours, who would it be?
Man, uh, I'd probably have to be Vince Gill or Dwight Yoakam. I'd have to say that's a tough one because I'd like to get guitar lessons from Vince Gill
Mm,
and Dwight Yoakam. I'd like to just how he came up with the sound, and he has such a unique sound, and even Garth Brooks too on the business marketing level. Garth Brooks is a genius
mm.
music business marketing guy. I'd like to talk to him too. So
Yeah,
all
yeah.
three if I could.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. And the final one, what is your go-to album? An album you constantly revisit?
My go-to album that I listen to,
Hmm.
man, I Brad Paisley's Mud on the Tires album. That's just always been, I think that's the same one that has Celebrity, because Celebrity, that for some reason his music, if remember having a bad day or like having a tough time, getting to the next gig, like I'm tired, I just put that song on and it's I don't know, it does something, it inspires me. So yeah, Brad Paisley's Mud on the Tires album is just always a special album for me. Yeah.
I like it. Good one, a good one. Listen, Chad, this has been a blast now. Thanks a million.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It's great to meet you and appreciate it.
Welcome to the podcast, concerts that made us, interviews and stories, tales from the bus. We love taking you back to when it all went down. The greatest live shows and the cheering crowd sound. It's concerts that made us, concerts that made us.com.